Hey guys, and welcome to this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest release from Cle de Peau, and this is their Radiant Cusion foundation, a natural. I've already wore the foundation for the past 3 days, so I've tried different ways of wearing the foundation, with sunscreen, without sunscreen, with powder and without powder. So let's go ahead and get started. In this video I'm going to show you close-ups of the packaging and the foundation itself. I'm going to show you how it applies on my skin and what is the longevity on my skin using different techniques of application of this foundation. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're new here and you love luxury beauty, be sure to join the fun by subscribing. I would love to have you here. And if you're returning, welcome back, dear friends. You're very highly appreciated. I'm so happy to have you here. If you have already tried this new foundation from Cle de Peau, do let me know what you think in the comment section below. This would be very useful for all of us, but also be sure to mention what's your skin type, because with foundations it's very important what skin type you have, because foundations usually don't work for everyone equally well. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, I'm 36 years old and I have normal to combination skin. Well, I have parts of my skin that are quite normal and I have some oily parts of my skin. Right now it is early spring, so my skin is, I would say, more normal. I don't experience a lot of oiliness on my skin and I don't have any particular issues on my skin, apart from the fact that my skin is very sensitive and it easily gets irritated. So that's about my skin. And now I want to go ahead and show you some close-ups of the packaging of the foundation. The packaging is absolutely gorgeous, as to be expected from Cle de Peau. This cushion foundation is refillable, so once you run out of this, it's very easy to refill this foundation. It has a big mirror on the inside and it has a very tight mesh on the inside. So this is a gel foundation, which means that it is the first actually cushion gel foundation that I have in my collection. And I have to say that first, when I started applying it and when I saw the foundation the first time, I was a little bit surprised, because actually you have to press into the mesh quite firmly to get out the product. And the product is actually like a gel. It's not liquidy, and I was expecting that the product is going to be liquidy. Now, I was very much in doubt which shade to pick, and right now I've had some sun and I'm planning to use this foundation in the summer. That's why I have chosen the shade Ochre 10. Foundation has the typical for Cle de Peau scent. I love the little sponge applicator that comes inside the foundation, because the shape of the sponge applicator makes it very easy to apply the foundation on some tricky places, such as under the eyes. It just fits, the sponge applicator fits very well under the eyes. So that's a good thing. That's really a nice surprise, because usually with cushion foundations, I find that the sponges usually are, it's very hard to get on those areas and to apply the product on those areas under the eyes. With this sponge applicator here, it's very smartly created. Now, I have to say that this packaging is absolutely stunning. I know that I'm going to be using this foundation overall in the summer. It's great for traveling. Now, let's go ahead and let me tell you a little bit more about the foundation itself and how it performs. And after that, I'm going to show you how it applies on my skin. So this is definitely, I would say, a light medium coverage foundation. I wouldn't say that you can achieve a full medium coverage, but it has a good amount of coverage. Now, it's a little bit strange, because when you start applying the foundation, I believe that there is a little bit of a learning curve here, because this is a gel foundation and you have to really press firmly into the mesh to get the product out, and then you have to blend it into the skin. Now, the foundation blends nicely into the skin. However, I have to say that this is not the perfect foundation for those of you who have a lot of texture on the skin. The foundation looks, I would say it's a natural glowy foundation. It's not too glowing, but at the same time, it's quite glowy foundation. It does give a nice canvas on the skin. However, if you have texture on the skin, I don't think that this foundation is going to be good for you. It is not the kind of foundation that blurs texture. So you have to be okay with the texture of your skin to wear this foundation. I think that if you have a lot of dilated pores or some texture, something like acne or some little bumps on the skin, you are probably not going to enjoy this foundation a lot, because it doesn't have this blurring effect. It doesn't have the same blurring effect like Let's go ahead and let me pull out, actually. This is the only foundation that I've tried from Cle de Peau so far, and this is the Radiant Fluid Matte Foundation, and this one is my favorite. This one just blurs imperfections in such a gorgeous, beautiful way. This foundation is different. It is a lot glowier, it is a lot shinier. However, it doesn't really give you that flawless, it doesn't even out, it doesn't make the skin smooth. So you should already have smooth skin to wear this foundation. So this is my only issue here. Now I have worn the foundation for the past 3 days, and I've tried it with sunscreen and without sunscreen. Now Cle de Peau recently released primer that has SPF 45. I don't have this primer, and probably I suppose that this foundation is made to work beautifully together with the primer, because I suppose that the primer is going to be, well, first of all, the primer has SPF 45, and it also, I suppose that since this is a primer, it's going to have this smoothing effect. So I suppose that this might be a good pair, but I don't have this primer. So I've worn the foundation with my La Mer SPF 50, and I have to say that on top of sunscreen, this cushion foundation doesn't look very flawless. So it somehow, I'm not really very happy with the finish of the foundation on top of sunscreen. If I don't use sunscreen and I apply the foundation right on my skin, just with my skincare, it looks so much better and it lasts better on me. It just looks a lot more perfected. My skin looks a lot more perfected if I use it without SPF. So definitely it doesn't wear very beautifully on top of SPF, or maybe I should try also different SPFs. I'm definitely going to update you in one of my future videos, because I have a lot of SPFs, I have a lot of sunscreens, and I'm going to try it with other sunscreens. But in general, my La Mer sunscreen works with most foundations. I wore the foundation with powder and without powder, and I have to say that I prefer the finish of the foundation without powder. Or if I use powder, I have to use the tiniest amount of powder, and only my Sisley loose powder would do with this foundation, because otherwise if you apply a little bit thicker powder, then it starts to emphasize and it doesn't look as beautiful and it doesn't wear as beautifully. So the best way that this foundation lasts on me is if I wear it without powder and without sunscreen. This foundation has an SPF 25, PA+++. However, I never rely on the SPF that is in foundation. So for everyday use, and if I'm inside, I'm absolutely okay not to wear SPF if I wear this foundation, because it still has an SPF 25. At first, when I apply the foundation, it doesn't look as beautiful as it looks 20 minutes later. So it sets into the skin, and this is one of the foundations that actually looks more beautiful 20 to 30 minutes after applying the foundation, because at the very first moments after application, it doesn't look very smooth, but after that it somehow sinks into the skin. Now this is definitely a moisturizing foundation. I feel that it feels very comfortable on my skin. I definitely feel a long-lasting hydration from this foundation. Since I have normal to combination skin, this is definitely not going to be my perfect foundation for the summer season. It's a foundation that I would prefer to wear more in the winter season, I would say, because of my combination skin. And I know that during the summer, if I'm not able to apply a good amount of powder, I know that I'm going to be too oily. But I think that this foundation is going to be best for those of you who have normal to slightly dry skin or dehydrated skin. I think that you're going to enjoy this foundation a lot more than if you have oily skin. If you have oily skin, I would say that it's hard to beat this foundation. This is the Radiant Fluid Matte Foundation SPF 20. Of course, never rely on the SPF that is in foundations, because you couldn't possibly apply enough to get this SPF 20. So overall, I like the foundation. The only thing that I don't really love about the foundation is that it doesn't have this smoothing effect. But as I mentioned earlier, I suppose that this foundation was designed in a way to be used with the primer, and probably the primer is going to give this smoothing effect on the skin. and then the foundation is going to look much better. But since I don't have the primer, I've only tested the foundation with a sunscreen, without sunscreen, with powder and without powder. And I have to say that the best way that this foundation looks on my skin is if I don't use an SPF and if I don't use powder. Be sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell on, because I'm going to update you in one of my future videos. I'm definitely going to keep wearing the foundation and I'm going to let you know how it works. For sure, I'm not going to be able to wear this foundation right in the summer months because it's going to be too oily on my skin, but I'm definitely going to keep wearing the foundation in the coming couple of months, and I'm going to be updating you on a regular basis how it looks on my skin. But still, this one is my absolute favorite. Okay guys, so now it's been 10 hours since I first applied the foundation. I have been outside for a little while. I don't have SPF on my skin, I have only the foundation, and you can see the amount of glowiness that I have on my skin now. I'm going to zoom in a minute just to show you, but overall I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I have to say that I'm quite shiny, I'm quite glowy, and I did blot once. Probably it was 5 hours after applying the foundation. I did blot just a little bit here because I started to get quite oily. If I had sunscreen, if I had SPF, then I was going to be a lot oilier. The foundation does not oxidize on my skin. Okay, so the one thing that I can share with you, once again, I cannot emphasize this one enough. It is a natural looking radiant foundation, exactly what Cle de Peau claims. However, just keep in mind that anywhere here where I have a little bit of like texture on the skin, or like, you know, skin, just, we are all humans, we all have skin. It is not smoothing in any way. So if you do have a lot of texture on the skin, I would not recommend this foundation. This one is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to try more foundations from Cle de Peau because this one is really a game changer. Like, if you have texture, it just smooths everything. It makes everything smooth and nice, and it hides pores and imperfections in such a beautiful way. This one, it does look natural. However, if you have any kind of pores, imperfections, even minor little bumps on the skin, it is not going to be the best foundation probably on its own. Do let me know if you own the primer. Actually, is the primer smoothing? Is the primer providing this kind of a smooth canvas? Because probably if it's used with the primer, it's going to be completely different story. But used alone, it's not forgiving to texture on the skin. Even if you have just very little texture. I would say that I'm not a person who has a lot of texture on the skin. I generally have really good skin, and I feel quite confident to go out even without any makeup or any foundation. But I feel like this foundation, it just, especially after like 4 or 5 hours of wear, it does, it's not forgiving to the places where your skin actually looks like skin and does have some kind of a texture. I would say that actually the issue with the texture is more when I get closer, like when I keep the mirror closer to my skin. If I look at like from this kind of distance at my skin, it looks nice. It looks just nice. And this is probably, I suppose, because of this kind of a moussey / gel texture on the foundation. So that was all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.